All right. So let's get started. So welcome to the weekly meeting of the OpenStack Technical Committee. This is also our monthly video meeting. And so much of this, what we're going to be chatting is going to be here on video, but it is getting recorded for posterity. But I will try to take some notes on IRC. As you can see, I'm actually using my laptop. Don't have a second monitor today, so I'll be a little slow. So I would appreciate anyone dropping any links or any meeting notes directly into IRC. Um, And let's get started with roll call on IRC. Feel free to say hi, but I will note folks are present here. So I did note Amy is at the Open Infra Summit, and Frickler is not going to be joining us today. Should have everybody else. All right. All right. Since we have quorum, we can get started. Let's begin with action items from the last meeting, which we didn't really take them down as action items, but we had several, discussions that we thought we'll follow up later on. So let's go through those. Okay, so we are going to be talking about the licensing discussion at the forum PTG, um, which means I need to start an Etherpad and share it with you folks. I'll do that right after this meeting. We can start gathering any more topics as well. We're a month and a half away, so it's quite some time, but I'm sure there's going to be longer discussion items that want to brew by then. So let's do those on the Etherpad directly. And there are TC members, just spots at the moment, I think, who are attending the Suwon Summit. So she will be recapping the discussions to us next week. So we look forward to that. And I had one AI here targeting the Oslo Policy 4.4.0 bump. So feature freeze is now done and the requirements freeze is done as well. But Gansham, did you have any update on that?
You mean the Oslo policy, right? So you mean,
Yes.
yeah, all the dependencies are merged. Actually, yesterday Holiday here blocked that Horizon fix, but Horizon fix is merged and requirement is in Gate. It's in workflow state, so maybe that will work. That should be merged soon. I tested most of the project and they are all good. Two fixes are up which are not merged yet, Tacker and Octavia Tempest plugin, but they are up and the team is already know that and they can merge anytime they want.
Yeah.
So it's in good state, I'll say. But once the requirement change is merged, I'll be talk on that if there is any failure or something happening in some if any project. It's basically like the cross service to service interaction where like Neutron designate. We had the one case where the change in enabling the new defaults in designate broke one of the job. So service wise, I tested all, but the service to service interaction we can see once the requirement change is merged, and obviously we can see if any job is failing on that.
Yes. Thank you. So did we not cross the deadline for the requirements bump though?
No, there is no deadline. Like deadline is to release the library, and obviously we can, bump the upper constraint with those already released version.
Okay,
So the deadline is not crossed. The freezing the requirement is, like any other known OpenStack library to be, bumped up. So those are the requirement freeze. So this one is OpenStack library, which already released. It's just the uh, upper constraint bump was not merged yet.
but it was workflow just a little bit ago, I think.
Yeah,
Uh,
Matthew, I think Flickr already in workflow earlier, but due to dependency, he removed that workflow. Then I ping requirement team and yeah, Matthew just workflow that. So most of the services, there is no impact like Noah, Ironic, Neutron, Glance, all those which they already enabled the new RBAC, right? This is like, enabling it globally
mhm.
so that we can push this RBAC goal work in a more speedy way because many other projects are not implementing or not enabling them by default. So this will help, to push the work a little bit forward. Otherwise, many services like even Manila, Nova, Ironic, and all, they already enabled the new RBAC, so there is no impact, on them or their behavior.
Awesome.
But I'll be watching the gate and all if there is any failure. Uh, if you guys encounter or know anything, let me ping me and I can help fixing that. And thanks, Levik, for debugging that designate and neutron service to service interaction thing also. That is something we need to work out in next cycle also, like how best we can interact because currently, obviously, admin will work to interact, but we have to start get rid of admin role for this service to service interaction.
Great. Makes
Yeah, so
sense.
that is all
Mhm.
on this from my side.
Thank you. All right. Further action items, we did see that the ARM64 support, we wanted to just, spread the word that we did lose some testing because of the one of the clouds going offline. So I've mentioned that in the email list, and we'll see if how that develops and if folks are interested across the projects to continue testing with ARM64. All right, and uh, I think Jeremy had a note on the email thread he started around code reviews and contributing organizations. And to basically to continue to ensure some effective engagement from folks without dropping off. So he is hoping that folks respond to that email thread if you have any concerns or if you have any suggestions to make. So let's follow up on that offline. I think one last thing was about the user survey. I'm not sure if we took any action item there. We just said the survey is open, so if you want to flag something, now's the, I mean it's still a good time. It will make the results inconsistent if you should change any options and somebody's already picked those options. But these are things that we should keep in mind for the 2025.1 survey. So I'm hoping to work with Allison on at least the TC questions that we have. I'll bring that up again in a future meeting so we can work on them together. But for now, I think Dimitri, did you have anything else that happened elsewhere with the concerns that you brought up?
No, not really. I guess this was like main points, and I haven't followed up with Alison yet because yeah, it makes sense only for upcoming
Yeah.
polls.
All right. Thank you. So that was all the action items as such. Am I missing any? Were you doing anything else you wanted to bring up? Right, silence. So that means no. Let's go on to the next topic. And this one, I'm going to put Slavik on the spot here. So this is a status update on the elections. Just it's going to be a very preliminary discussion on what we need to do as especially with some of the things. So
Thanks. So first of all, there is mistake in the agenda. Masakari has got PTL candidate. Mistral don't have. So
Mistral,
there are
okay.
4 projects: Mistral, Swift, Watcher, and Courier without any candidates, which I think is still pretty good number comparing to previous elections. So I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah. Other than that, tomorrow, I know that I think Ian made some mistake and sent ballots too early, and he's aware of that. And sorry that I did not respond on IRC on, I think, Friday when you discussed that, but I was already offline. So I checked that later. So yeah, but tomorrow actually election window should start for TC, because for PTL we do not have any elections. So yeah.
Maybe this mistake is good actually. It means opening the election time during campaign also. Maybe you can do that always, right? I like the idea. Or by mistake, what have I done?
I mean, I liked the idea in theory of us leaving a campaigning period, but the reality is that in practice, no one really uses it for that. So I would rather just give that time to give people more time to track down if they voted, putting their ballots in, whatever.
Yeah. So, but officially we made mistakes. Like according to official documentation and process, there was mistake. So maybe we can change that to make it written in next cycles. But yeah, other than that, I think it's going pretty well so far.
This sounds kind of like the mistake where the Captain Crunch makers accidentally spilled all the crunch berries in, and then everybody is like, "Oh, actually, we like that better." So, seems fine to me.
Also talking about Mistral, I think once we reach to current PTL, they will be so it's OVH folks and they're quite responsive. So I guess they just missed you to the summer period or something like that because they were quite interested.
Yeah.
Last time I talked to.
First of all, I sent email to all members of like contributors to Mistral project, as to many other projects, like 2 days before our nomination period ended. And I also tried to ping, because I know OVH was mostly involved and interested in this project recently. So I had contact to one one guy from OVH. I tried to ping him, maybe he's on PTO or something. I tried to ping him to like ask him to make everyone else from OVH aware about this project and the nomination and all of this stuff, but he did not respond. So maybe they will want to take care of it after the election period will be finished. So yeah.
And eventually, I think it was good to send notifications to all contributors to the project because I really like that. And so I applied late for PTL and I sent a mail to everyone, and like people started popping up who I haven't seen for quite a while, and asking, "Oh well, do you need help or do you need is there anyone to step in and things like that?" So I think it was quite nice. At least it worked.
Thanks. I'm glad that it was useful in somehow.
Yes, I thank for that.
And I think Courier anyway going to be retired, so we don't need to worry about that. Swift team already pinged that missed the election thing, so we know that there is a leader there. So yeah, those things actually help. Initially, I received the mail and I thought like, what is that? But then I see the to list and it was helpful to know that. That's something. That's why like that also, and our retirement, like every cycle we used to have 10 to 12 leaderless project, but this cycle mostly like if you see just the 2 or 3, which is a good progress. We should make Slavic as a permanent election official.
Great. So on the courier one, we can just, probably make progress on that patch that is still open based on Tacker. Do you want to add any sort of deadline around that?
So that's why like this is the release time, so I didn't want Tacker to push and break them. But I'll in next cycle most probably, maybe this cycle they can release Tacker if they're not able to. There is a patch up, VIP patch by Ogawa, the PTL of Tacker, but that's still not in a good state to merge. So as feature freeze is already done, so it's a good idea to uh, remove that dependency in next release, and there we can then retire the courier officially. So I'll follow up with them after the release. So for this release, there are question whether we need to release courier Kubernetes or not. So I'll say we don't need to release, like whatever the already released version is there, or if Tacker feel like they need new functionality or they wanted to release, so we can leave it to them. Otherwise, there is no requirement for Courier Kubernetes to be released. Or if release team is releasing with the same tag, that also fine. The Courier as a deliverables is already moved to June project team. So there the release and everything is happening as per the normal way. So it's just the Courier dash Kubernetes deliverable and Courier Tempest plugin, which has only Courier Kubernetes test cases.
Yeah. Is the discussion around that release happening on the release patch?
So the release patch I added Hongbin, who is the June team PTL. And by considering that, I think we can already workflow the PTL vote there.
Okay.
So there is no, blocking thing on that. But let me quickly check. Yeah, so it's already merged. So it's all good. That I'll add the patch link in IRC.
Thank you. All right. On Watcher, and yeah, let's start with Watcher. I think that would be the project that we had some context on. So we had a DPL model last time, and this time we deliberately not had that DPL model. So we is the plan to begin retirement, do you think?
I don't really know. All I can say is that I was trying to keep it working and from the chopping block to give some time for evaluation, and I'm not sure that really there's been any evaluation one way or the other. So that's unfortunate. But I'm not going to keep sticking my neck out for it just to keep it. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't do something dumb, just like a hair bit too early. But Mohammed did say in the last VMware working group call that he would start trying to take a look at it and see if it was something that looked useful enough for them to potentially run, I guess, for some of their requirements, which would at least give us a known user kind of a thing. But yeah, it's pretty much all.
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate because it seems like there's a worthwhile to be saved effort and meat there, but
I mean, it's worth noting that we always have as an option to switch it to an independent project to remove it from OpenStack, but keep the project itself alive, even if it's not integrated, especially if it's primarily interacting with stable APIs.
that's fair. I guess I'm not sure. Have we done, I mean, not that it matters, but have we done that for any other similar kind of project? Like it's kind of, that would be good in that it would avoid, the hard to recover from terminal state. It's also maybe not good in that it's like spinning off a project with literally nobody to be even holding the keys or turning off the lights, ever. I know there's not going to be a good answer to either of them, but yeah, it's good to maybe consider that option.
It might be a good idea. They were doing episodes of OpenInfra Live at the end of every release where we gave updates on each project and things like that. In the past, we've also done a TC update during that. I wonder if we should make a point that whoever represents the TC in that call, or maybe if one of us are there representing a project in that video, that'd be a good time to publicize, hey, we have, this project or these set of projects which work, which we don't have contributors for, that are at risk of getting canceled. If you rely on these projects, you need to let us know. You need to let your vendors know immediately.
Yeah, I feel like my fear is that that is not going to turn up the users that we hope. Like if anyone, I'm worried that nobody's using it because I feel like we would have heard by now. And I also think that people who don't have a vested interest in that are probably not going to be like, well, I don't care about that or care to use it, but sure, I'll do something else. So it's certainly better than nothing, but
you don't want to Streisand affect it just by saying we have this project that might be dying. People would go, oh, they have a project for that, and go use it. That's actually,
yeah, I mean, it's
I hadn't
possible.
considered that at all. That's a good thought.
It's possible, but yeah, maybe. Yeah, it just feels unfortunate, but
So I know it's a bit different, but we were doing something similar with some backends and drivers in Neutron in the past. And I was announcing that we will, for example, want to deprecate, I don't know, Linux Bridge backend because we don't have maintainers. And then once I did that as a PTL, I got like three or four or more pings from people. Hey, but we are using this backend. You should still keep it maintained. But then nobody show up to actually do anything with it. So
yeah,
it may be that there will be people who will say that, hey, we are using that, but I'm afraid that they still may think that someone else will take care of it and will maintain it.
right.
Because it is like that.
But hey, to be fair about Linux bridges, it still works with Caracal just nicely. People like upgrading it. It just works. So until something is broken, nobody will step in to fix it because they don't know that any help is needed. Because I mean, it's working.
So break it, Slavic.
For now, I don't even really know. I mean, probably it still works, but we have marked it as deprecated or experimental, and we basically you have to enable in configuration that you want to use it, really, and we don't
Yeah, I
try to
know a
reach
bunch
out.
of big
But
deployments are still broken and they're running Caracal with it, so it's fine. It works.
Say it's event leap used inside, therefore it needs extra maintenance, and therefore just get rid of it.
Do we know from user survey, like if any data we have anyone using?
yes, I think in last user survey there were like still there is
There are still.
significant. It's not most popular, of course, but there are users who are using it. But yeah, eventlet is one of the things which probably will break it because I mean deprecating eventlet because for now only Rodolfo and Brian are working on it, and I know that none of them is interested in taking care of the bridge, so it may be that that will be something what will really break it if nobody will show up. But yeah, I was just anyway. I was just wanted to say that asking for help like that is of course always good, but I'm afraid that the effect may not be as we would like to see.
Yeah, but we had like success in some cases, like Mistral in past, where it was almost no maintainer. We published it, and
And
then some of
Monasca,
the users
yeah,
show up. Yeah, Monasca. So
Yeah,
they
that
showed
is
up and try to maintain. So maybe it's worth to, publicize it.
Yeah, I mean, I just think back to the security bug we had 6 months ago or 9 months ago, whatever it was. I don't want to say the name of the project because I always say the wrong one and I don't want the wrong one to get dinged with it. But we had kind of that situation of a maintainer coming in who got a lot of hand holding to get it up and started. But when it came down to it and we really needed someone there who understood the project to fix a security bug for our customers, they literally disappeared. So I think if we're going to take that approach of being okay with someone with less overall experience and less overall community trust taking over a project, that we need to have someone who has that community trust and who's willing to develop the context to be that safety net. Because I don't want me or anyone else on the VMT to ever have to write an OSSA again that just says, sorry, it's not going to be fixed. Because that felt really professionally embarrassing.
You might also apply that same thing to the strategy of splitting Watcher out as an independent project, and that if it has a CVE that shows up afterwards, there's nobody around to even be a VMT for them, do that whole process and whatever. But it used to be under us, and people kind of come looking for us, and we say, "Oh, we washed our hands of that thing a while ago." It could cut both ways. Anyway, I don't know what to say to the original question. But
Yeah, that's I think, big discussion on overall, like how we keep the project healthy and all. But for Watcher, I think because this I think milestone 2 of next cycle. Before that, only we need to decide if we are going to retire or not, because we should not be in a situation that we pass the deadline and that. So whatever like publication notification we wanted to give on mailing list or YouTube, wherever, so we can do it in early stage. PTG is one platform where we can publicize, but doing it in early stage of next cycle will be good.
Just for the minutes, it was the project Murano, the
yeah.
one that we had the issue with. Okay. All right. So Slavik, is the communication regarding the PTLs expected only after the election period ends?
I think so.
We can
But
do early also, like we used to do leaderless Etherpad, prepare the leaderless project Etherpad, start, discussing where we can approach other people to maintain this project. So notification or anything we can do, like it doesn't require, election, because there cannot be any nomination now in election. So it is finalized that
yeah,
final that it is leaderless project and TC has to discuss and appoint whatever.
okay,
So
I will prepare the Etherpad like that then this week.
Yeah, and there we can start providing option or putting
Yeah.
notification.
Okay.
Perfect. Thanks, Kancham. Thanks, Slavik. And on Swift, we had, I think we had some interest, and they've submitted, or they have not yet submitted a PTL thing, right? They were waiting on the election results to be announced and such.
Yeah, I was discussing, like, I think most of the cycle team missed to
Yeah.
raise the hand for PTL. So DPL is one option, but it's up to them if they wanted to consider. Otherwise, I mean, this time we had the Slavic email to their individual also in case they're missing the
Yes.
mailing list thread or something, right? So I feel like it's a overhead, election overhead, if same project is going with the same PTL in every cycle and they are missing the deadline. So maybe just moving to DPL, and they can be hold the license, or they can invite other members to license that DPL responsibility, so that at least the election overhead will be less. So
But it won't be less because we are resetting the PLs each cycle. So basically, if they're not in time to submit their willingness to resume
yeah,
TPL, it will be still election. So
but still, like, that's less process. Just on the Garrett, they can give -1 or repurpose the paths. In
So instead
election,
of one
the
person
overhead.
responding, you're expecting like every one of the liaisons to
But that is,
right.
we can do it in advance of election, not like, within 2 weeks or something. We can do the start of resetting practice much before
Yeah.
the election thing. This time we did, very in a tight schedule, but next time we can do it, and we can ping them on IRC or something. Because in election thing, what I feel like, say example of Swift only, now election official are tracking their leaderless thing, then TC need to discuss, propose the patch, and again, all these things are extra if we know, like, same project going with the same PTL in every cycle, and they're missing the election deadline.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if up to Swift team, if they think like there can be another PTL or some other leaderless change in future or something, so they can continue the PTL. But we should communicate to them, like, we should start noticing the election deadline.
All right. That makes sense. I think we've accounted for all four teams. Thank you so much. I must note this is much smoother. We still have work to do, but it's still much smoother than what you had to deal with the last time. All right. Anything else to be said about the elections, Slack?
No, not from my side.
All right. We'll catch up about that in a week or so. Thank you. Let's chat about the unmaintained branches, another popular topic around here. So this discussion comes up because we kind of wondered on the periphery last few weeks whether it is getting time to make the next transition, which is Antelope goes unmaintained. At present, Antelope is stable 2023.1. So that would be unmaintained 2023.1. And we are, I think the release team has started publishing, releases from projects that had changes to be released in preparation of this transition, but there is no date yet. So they are looking for anybody raising a hand and saying, this needs more time, or this is fine. The timeline looks fine. And the timeline, I think, would be when we branch off this Dalmatian release, around that. So are there any early concerns about Antelope going unmaintained?
well, I personally feel it's been kind of aggressive. I think we really should check for for user survey first and see percentage and distribution of releases. Because if we want to push people into using slab releases, probably we might want to keep they a bit longer than non-slab releases as well, but I'm not sure.
We just debated and passed the policy that lays this out. I don't understand why we would be nervous about implementing it when it comes time to implement it.
Yeah, and I still feel very painful about unmaintained branches. I mean, I feel them being very problematic in practice, while they were super nice on paper.
Well, I
But
think
no, it's me.
I think at least from a user perspective, the pain is intentional. Like we didn't want unmaintained branches to be a smooth user experience because they're not. They're not maintained. Extended maintenance branches weren't really maintained. Like many of us go
Exactly.
above and beyond and make security patches hit them, but I don't think it's a bad thing for people running software extremely old, out of date, that we have passed a resolution saying we don't have the capacity to support this properly. Yeah, folks want to run that release even after we say it's not supported anymore. It should be difficult for them. It shouldn't be easy for someone to run something that's years out of date.
And it doesn't have to be difficult. It has to be clear communication, right? So what you said earlier was that they were extended maintenance, but they weren't being maintained, right? And that's exactly what we communicate by saying that it's now unmaintained. It doesn't like change anything about it other than the communication about what's going on, right? And like the next slurp after Antelope will have been out for 6 months at the time of the upcoming release, which I think is what the proposal was for marking it as unmaintained, right? So to me, it's exactly what we prescribed, which is communicating
Yeah, I mean,
that this
I'm
thing
not
is not
arguing
maintained.
with that. I'm just saying that from user. So it's I feel that people feel very hard to catch up with release cycles. So now when we announce slopes, they are
But
trying. I see like tendency of deployers to tend to upgrade at least to Antelope from their very old deployments, because now with 1 year period for upgrades, they have at least a chance for upgrades in time.
But this doesn't change the scheduling of anything at all. All it
No,
changes is the communication of the fact that we used to call it extended maintenance and didn't maintain it. It's not going anywhere. It's not changing. It's just that it's not maintained. You're
yeah,
communicating that it's not maintained. I mean, it wasn't maintained before.
yeah.
And if we don't follow, this schedule of moving to unmaintained, then what we'll be ending up doing, just pushing all these extended maintenance issue into our supported branches, right? So that's how we'll be shifting, and at one stage after 1 year or so, we'll have same problem that our supported branches are unmaintained as extended maintenance.
Yeah.
So I also
Yeah,
feel like
that's
this
a
is
good point. Like if we didn't do
yeah.
the name change, it would still be exactly the same, except that it would be called maintained when it's not maintained. But otherwise, it would be the same number of things landing there in all likelihood.
Yeah, and these are kind of fair points. It's hard to disagree with them. I'm probably more not like even about like, so unmaintained process was like a pain for me personally because of need to create all these new branches and so on rather than just do attack. So it kind of had a token. But yeah, I guess I was thinking about just the timeline for slopes versus non-slope, for instance.
I always think about, at least from, obviously, I don't work as much in the bigger integrated gate. I kind of live in the ironic land. I know that the older those supported branches get, the more difficult it is for us to keep their CI running in a meaningful way. And so that means for us in a supported branch, that's time we're spending making that work that we would spend doing other things. On an unmaintained branch, we just hit the button and get rid of that job. If we don't, the code isn't broken and it's just something where, a package version changed and broke or something like that. So I think that from like at least my perspective as an ironic core, crossing over that maintained to unmaintained threshold is important to me because it means that the CI requirements get significantly reduced so that if there's an issue with our CI, instead of I just lost a day fixing CI, I can instead say, well, I'm going to disable this job because we know that, 90% of this is covered in other jobs.
It's a
So
liability
eventually,
thing for.
sorry, so eventually it's a really good point to touch the CI because I really wonder how many projects does reduce their CI or remove periodic jobs when they're moving to unmaintained.
Well, they don't
So
need to do
because
that when they move. They just can do that when they break once they have moved.
I mean, yes, but if you know that your CI is broken, we are just continue to running on periodic jobs for quite a while on maintained branches while nobody kind of cares about them, right? Which we didn't do with extended maintenance because it was just a tag. So Zool didn't care about periodic jobs on extended maintenance. Oh well, oh, whatever you got me. But yeah.
Great. All right. I think Fungi mentioned on the IRC channel that the transition has a date. It is 2024 10/30. So that's and Antelope would have been about 19 months around at that time. So it provide as much whatever time as we would for any of these releases. So I think it's a good place to leave this discussion, and probably, I mean, for me, it is a good thing to recap to the mailing list that we're not making any changes, right? That's the general agreement here, and it serves to remind people that what's going to happen to this Antelope release. Because if you were thinking, I mean, this is the first Slurp release. If you were thinking that it's going to stick around, it's not, and these are the reasons. Right. Thanks for engaging. Anything else to be said about this? All right. Thank you for the links and the discussion on IRC. Let's move on to our regularly scheduled topic on gate health.
So I know that the gate has been quite busy because of, well, actually it's not as busy as it was earlier this morning, but the last week it was quite busy. But it feels to me like things are unraveling a little bit. I've got a very trivial patch against Tempest to skip a test, and it is on its seventh recheck right now, trying to get it to land. It's blocking, work in Glance that needs to land like last week, and it's like a different failure every single time. This most recent one had failed on old grenade, so obviously not related to skipping a patch or skipping a test. So that might be that failures go up as load goes up, and load is high-ish right now, or has been, but it definitely feels like we're not going the right direction.
Personally, I think we should be introducing something like a regate and not only recheck, because what I really hate is that we are forcing to do double set of jobs. Every time we press recheck, just to regate, we are again repeating all the check jobs.
We have had that in the past. We called it re-verify, but we can do that. It's an OpenStack decision whether we do or don't. The reason that we don't is because there were at the time cases where people would not realize that between the check and the gate, they had done something else had landed in the project that made their thing no longer work, and people would just re-verify like 20 times until someone caught them and said, look, that's never going to pass if you even look at the thing. We certainly could do that now. The pattern or the pace of things has slowed down, so maybe that's less likely to be done. I do feel like there's more mindless rechecking nowadays than there was back then, um, but I believe, as far as I know, it's completely up to us if we want to allow something like that.
I
But I don't
can
think that's
also
going to
recall
solve
that
the
gates
problem.
were more. I think that gates were also more expensive due to testing all together, so it was causing more load on Zoo or something like that, at least back in the day. So it was like uh, not thoughtful regating, and also that it's we're causing issues performance-wise as well.
I think all of our jobs were lighter weight back then, personally, um, but yeah. See, Fungi just said policy choice
Yeah.
in our tenant. It's not going to solve the problem. Like, it's going to make it easier to land stuff that, it's going to make it easier to not feel the pain, which is not going to cause anybody to, um, make it better. It will make the pain less, but.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an objection to that. I also think it's, scooping a bucket full of water out of the ocean in terms of how much it's likely to make an impact. The bigger issue, and we've said this forever, is getting more engineering resources on the intermittent failures. But I think we've gotten to the point where some of those failures are just out of technical reach of some of our contributors, like the kernel panic that Nova's been under, the DNS mask crashes that causes ironic issues. These are things that we've escalated. We've been unable to get meaningful progress on, as I understand it. And so, um, that's pretty rough. Like for Ironic, I'm looking at implementing Kia support next cycle to maybe get us out of that. But for kernel panics, you can't really get around that. And so that's like the root cause. And that's what I'm curious if we can fix.
Well, to be clear, I don't know about your DNS mask issues, but the kernel panics on the Nova side are not the majority of our failures. They are the majority of the frustratingly the ones that we feel like we're unable to do anything about. But I mean, like, especially lately, I would. It's been a while since I've seen a guest kernel panic. So for sure, like, that would be a good example of a thing where, you know what, this is a known thing. We know we're not making any progress on it. I failed it in the gate, so I'm going to re-verify and go through the gate again. The things that you would hate to see that be used for are like Glance. Glance has a patch up against Tempest to fix one of its tests that has a race in it. So that's good. But like, we've apparently failed that a bunch of times, and nobody has noticed that it was a race until quite recently. So those are the kinds of things that we really have to not just paper over by making the pain less, I guess. And they're fully within our control because they're all our stuff. Anyway, I just wanted to call out that we've had several months of kind of like tacit, it's not so bad right now kind of reports, and I think it's not as good at the moment.
All right. Great. Thanks for the discussion. So is there anything that we can take off from this week? So we can have that discussion on the policy change around the thing. Like we said, would that need, I mean, a mailing list discussion, you think, or?
Um, I mean, you could have a mailing list discussion. I think that the TC can probably just make that call if they want to do that. I would encourage, especially because it will be the next TC, that if that is a decision that is made, that to enable that there's some horizon set for revisiting, like collecting some data, looking to see if it looks like it's, helping, hurting, being abused, whatever, and kind of like, like a new tax, it has got to be renewed in 6 months or something after we see how it goes.
Yeah, I agree.
While he's typing, Jay, I assume that your DNS hopping is not solvable by like making sure you never hop it more than once a second or something.
No, we've tried stuff like that. The thing that's crazy is we've not been able to reproduce it outside of our CI environment.
Oh,
We can't even reproduce it in local dev stacks, poking it with a sharp stick. Only in actual CI environment. We spent like a week fuzzing it with updates, trying to get a tight reproducer, and we couldn't find it. But there was a very suspicious change in DNS mask where they reworked the memory management. They basically had a CVE fix around memory management, which caused the initial issues. They refactored their memory management, which made it even worse for our case. And that's why we downgrade it now to the version that like is only halfway broken and not entirely broken. But quite
yikes.
frankly, my experience with this has lowered my confidence overall in DNS mask as a utility in my tool belt. So, like,
Yeah.
regardless of if we fix this individual bug or not, I think it's important for us to have better DHCP options in OpenStack. And like I said in the IRC chat, G Research open source software will be looking at that next cycle.
I'm actually surprised that it gets used in as many places as it does. Personally, I don't even use it at home for infrastructure. So I definitely, if it were me, I would be doing something else. But because like ISC DHCP even has like a full like well, and bind has like controllability and active and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, okay. Anyway,
Great. All right, I did make some notes for the thing, and I'll remember to put this in the PTG as well. And thank you for the links, Jay. Anything else on anything else on the gate this week? All right, we just have 6 more minutes. So I will quickly go through the TC tracker. I'm not sure there's any more progress. One of the good things I wanted to note is it's pretty good. We've been like churning through policy changes, etc. on the governance report. It's got quite a lot of attention. So thank you all for reviewing all those patches in a timely manner. So there isn't much that we are leaving behind at the towards the end of this TC term for as far as tracking goes. Um, so is there anything that folks want to talk about in particular? Sounds like none. So let's move on to open discussion. Your 4 minutes. Does anything have to be said?
How many more meetings of this technical committee do we have? Is this the last video meeting for this iteration of the technical committee?
Fair question.
I think it is.
It is.
A lot of
Barring
video calls.
shenanigans.
Is that a question to say you won't show up at the next video meeting? Or?
No, I'm just wanted to comment that out loud. Like, I know I won't be on the TC next year. Thanks for everyone for working, and welcome to whoever gets to take our place. And I wanted to specifically thank Doug for showing up as one of the candidates on the ballot, showing up to the meeting. I really appreciate that, and I would encourage other candidates to do that in the future.
Absolutely. I want to take that moment then to thank you and Dan, both of you. It's exemplary leadership that you've shown over these past releases and years. For me personally, I've come to you for a lot of things, and I think I won't stop doing that. So you've given me permission to do that, so we'll do. But so thank you so much for your time, and I don't want you to feel like you can't come here.
The
So
way I
please
put
do.
it to folks is
Yep.
I still intend on being a part of OpenStack leadership. It's just
Yes.
I think that the type of leadership style I bring is likely better serving outside of a committee format and more like one-on-one mentoring and things like that as necessary.
Great. And for now. Awesome. Anything else, folks, today? Sounds like no. All right. So good afternoon, good evening, and thank you all for attending. We'll see you on IRC next week.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Thanks.
you.
Bye.
If I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Good night. Yeah.